Hey everyone, Disappointed Giant here. Welcome to another viewer build. We got another viewer build. These have been great. This has been awesome because I don't really have to plan anything. Y'all have taken the crux off of my shoulders and have given me a bunch of great ideas to do some runs, record some videos and all that. So this has been great. This specific viewer build was submitted by Dan Noodleboy, and the gist of it, the idea here is to get a legendary Ice Crossbow with the plus 175% damage to a frozen enemy affix on the rail shot. So that's a mouthful, right? So what does that mean? What does that mean in the grand scheme of things? So basically, the idea here is, with Ice Crossbow, the first shot, or I should say the left shot, will freeze an enemy. The second shot will, or the right or alternate fire, whatever you want to call it, that will shoot this big rail shot out. I forget specifically, can't remember exactly what it's called. We'll see it when we get there. But that long, really heavy shot, it will crit enemies that are frozen. And the goal here, which is great since they actually allow these affixes on the ice weapons, is you freeze an enemy, and then after that you use that secondary shot. You get a big critical in general, but then when you have plus 175% to a frozen target, you're basically almost tripling your damage output, which is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Reminds me similarly to Hades' critical mechanic, both Hades and Hades 2. A crit will do plus 200% damage, so we're almost at that threshold there. So Hades, the critical damage modifiers are great there, and then we have something similar here. So basically, we're going to freeze enemies. We're going to use that secondary shot to get extra damage, and then we're going to repeat, right? The other part of it is there are other options here, right? So we could put Ice Shield in the Armadillo pack for rolling through, both melee and range attacks to get enemies frozen. Ice Armor, Ice Grenade, just freeze them to death. So I, once again, I recorded this run, it's probably about, 3 weeks ago at this point. So I can't remember the specifics, but I am sure that we do plenty of freezing, plenty of extra damage with that legendary crossbow. So this is exciting. This is great. So, as always, I hope everybody's doing good. Hope you're doing well. Whatever. I feel like I say this a handful, I've said this a bunch, but whenever you're watching it, whether it's you've clicked on this, an hour after it came out, or you clicked on it a year after it came out, hope you're enjoying life, hope you're doing well. And I hope you enjoy the video. Again, this is a good one. For me, the crossbow family in Dead Cells has kind of had like a long, like a storied sort of storied path, or like a story, like an interesting story, I guess might be a good way to put it. Originally back in, I think it was from 1.0 through 1.8, the crossbows, all of them, right? So repeater, heavy, ice, and explosive crossbows, they were all tactics and survival, but they only took up one slot. So there was only one function of the item, right? So heavy crossbow, basically it would just do a ton of damage. It would do a ton of damage. There was just that one big heavy shot. There was no reload. With explosive crossbow, there was only the missile, right? So there was only the explosive shot that came out. And then with repeater, random shots from the volley would root enemies. So instead of having a complete secondary shot, you'd randomly root enemies with it. And then finally, Ice Crossbow, where if you press the button, it would freeze an enemy, and then if you held the button, it would shoot out these. It's almost like a little bit of a spread that would do crits. So all of these weapons kind of had the when they got revamped to two-handed crossbows in 1.9, they had like the same sort of foundation, but they expanded upon what the possibilities were, right? And of course, you take The downside, is you lost that extra slot. So one of the builds that my friends and I used to use all the time, we called it the Omega build. It was basically heavy crossbow and rampart. So you just block, you'd block something, you get 2.5 or 3 seconds of invincibility, and then you'd shred. So it was really good. But and when they did that, they actually made Evil Empire made all of the crossbows survival only. So it was a really weird time between like 1.9 and 2.1 or 2.2 or whatever it was. But now we're at a spot where it's sort of in the middle again. So all of these crossbows are two-handed. All of them are survival and tactics scaling. And we're back. Things are balanced. Things were not balanced back before the two-handed crossbows, right? But things are balanced here. We're gonna see. We do. I know we get a legendary Ice Crossbow. I might grab it here, or I may grab it in the next biome. I don't wait too long for it. I remember it might be like a level 8 or a level 9, so it's not super jacked. It's not like we're getting a 12 out of the cavern, or like a mimicked. Look at that awful, that awful secret placement. We're not getting like a super jacked one. Again, it's probably like level 8 or level 9, but we'll see it when we get there. We'll talk about the affixes. We'll talk about how the weapon works and everything. But in the meantime, let's just do a quick check-in on the run, on the build, right? So we are loading all of our stats into survival. I'm probably going to take this Semblance. That's what I would do right now yep, there we go. So we're loading all of our stats into survival. So sometimes I like to leave prisoner's quarters with 331, 313, whatever it is, so that way we can get the possibility of extra good stats. But I decided to just load it up. All into survival here. Stat manipulation be damned. And then the first mutation I took was What Doesn't Kill Me. It's one of I'd say it's my favorite healing mutation. It starts really, really strong with every melee every melee parry. I think you get, I want to say it's like 2.2 or something is where it starts, and then it caps at 6%, which is outrageous. If you parry like 8 enemies, you're going to get half of your health back. It's pretty wild. So that's what I grabbed here. I had the pistol, just taking something out of the starting tubes just to kind of get the build rolling, or I should say the machete and pistol. And now we got ourselves a double damage Semblance. So even though we're playing survival, our health this early on is a little low, right? The scaling isn't generally awful this early in the game. I find that Arboretum in particular, we get a challenge rift here too. This is fantastic. I find that the Dilapidated Arboretum in general is scaled higher than like sewers or prom would be as far as damage intake and stuff like that. Could be wrong, but this biome in particular feels a little bit more tough as far as, just trying to regulate health and not get destroyed compared to the other ones. But again, could just be confirmation bias or sort of like how I've my other experiences here. And we got is this a legendary here? What do we got? Legendary Abyssal Trident. I guess I'm going to throw that in the backpack for now, just in case, right? So our health is low, and we have Semblance doing double damage. So our damage output is great. Probably going to grab this over cluster, not over catalyst. There we go. Damage output is great, but I need to be a little bit more careful as far as, the way that I play here until either we get a different weapon that is not going to have double damage on it, or until we start to fill out our health scrolls. As you can see here, I just caught it out of the corner of my eye here. We got a quote-unquote bad dual stat, but we're going to toss that. We're going to grab the brutality, so I think that's a 60? Is that a 60% increase? 50, 60? Yeah, 65%. So got ourselves a little bit of extra wiggle room here, but I do need to be careful, right? The good news, we just got the 62, so that is, that's fantastic. Fantastic. We got ourselves a chance for a decent pull from the 60 door after the Arboretum, which was great. Already lost my, that's beautiful. Oh yeah, and then the other thing too is, you know, even though our health is a little bit low, we're getting that double damage. Having what doesn't kill me as our first mutation is great. Like I was just saying, it's probably, you know, not counting like the occasional big bump from gastronomy where you could get like a 85% heal from, is it 85 or 81 or whatever it is. You get yourself a nice fat heal from a big food, but that's like a one-time or possibly two-time things. With what doesn't kill me, you can keep rolling and keep rocking with that throughout the whole game, which is great. So and you can see there, yeah, took a big hit here. So if I were playing this now, if I were playing this now, my first course of business would be to, oh, we got a good stat there, beautiful. My first course of business would be to start to try to single out enemies and then parry them one at a time. You know, the way what doesn't kill me works is you cannot get multiple parries off of the same enemy in order to continue to get health. Oh, there we go. We got our first Ice Crossbow, which is perfect. And it also has the plus 175% damage to a frozen target. Oh, so we're gonna get into this. We're gonna get into this sooner than expected. This is fantastic here. But just to finish my thought, what doesn't kill me, the parries have to be different enemies. But there's also an internal cooldown of I think like 20 or 30 seconds. So if you were to take this into a boss, you would be able to parry that boss, get your health back, and then after again like 20 or 30 seconds, you parry again. And you get health back again. One of the best boss to take this into would be Conjunct, because when you fight Conjunctivius, you have all the tentacles out. Each tentacle counts as a separate enemy. So if you're whatever it is, right? How many tentacles come out of there? Like 12 or something like that. Each one that you parry is going to give you your health back. So they're not counted as a single enemy. So that mutation within the Conjunct fight is quite good. It's quite good. So we got ourselves what we were looking for right off the bat. So it is not a legendary Ice Crossbow, so it doesn't have those bonus affixes. However, built in, it did have the plus 175% to a frozen target, which is great. So that's a big, like I was just saying, you know, talking about Hades criticals and all of this stuff. That is a big boost. It's a big boost. So we're in great shape. We're in great shape. Something else I didn't mention is we hit up a cursed biome. I think this and Dracula's castle were both cursed. My thought process at the time could have been one of two things, right? It could have either been, hey, this run is early, I'm going to take a cursed biome, so if I kick the bucket, it's not going to matter. Or it could have been, you know, getting that extra +1 gear quality, trying to get an Ice Crossbow earlier. And that's what we did. So we're in pretty good shape. I did get cursed on my way out of here. Thankfully, there were more than 3 enemies, so I cleared that curse. We're in, you know, that way I would not have to either take a curse into the Challenge Rift or have to skip the Challenge Rift because I was cursed and I wouldn't want to lose the run. So I think, again, if I were playing this live right now, if I were cursed, I would go into this Challenge Rift. I do have ice armor, so I could tank a single trap hit. And also, like I just said, it's early on enough in the run. What are we at here? Like 5, 10, yeah, 13 minutes in total. Like it's not that big of a deal. You know, 9 minutes of game time if I would have to start over. But luckily, we did not have to worry about that. We're straight. We're good. And we got ourselves a pretty decent clear here. I don't know if I'm going to go... Yeah, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to take Prison Depths or not. I'm going to go straight down. Yeah, I was hoping, secretly, I was hoping that I was just going to hit Morass. So that way I could skip out of here. You know, I got two good dual stat, or excuse me, 2 extra scrolls, right? 1 good dual stat, 1 challenge rift. But that's not the case. So we are going into Prison Depths. We're going into Prison Depths, which is my second least favorite biome in the whole game. Outskirts. Castle Outskirts is the only one that I do not like more than this. But as new players, definitely hit up these cursed biomes when you can. I think something has burning on it, so I should have rolled off. Maybe I'm going to do this here. I should have rolled off burning from that. What do you call it there? The cluster grenade, because that I use cluster grenade. I mean, I use my skills pretty frequently, but the cluster grenade is going to make enemies burn, which is anti-synergy with the Ice Crossbow here. So we'll see. Again, if I were playing this now, I would have taken a look. But also, you know, when I am going back and watching footage versus playing live, it's easier to pick up on stuff. It's easier to see, oh, I missed this challenge rift, right? See, these enemies are burning and I didn't realize it, you know? So I feel like, I think I might have just checked there to look at it. You know, it's easier to see it after the fact. But if I had noticed that, I definitely would have rolled that off. Also a recommendation for any folks who are, you know, doing some sort of ice kind of build. That we got another good challenge rift. Fantastic, or excuse me, just all challenge rifts are good, I'd say, but this is great. So we already got three. These are going to three bonus scrolls here, which is fantastic. But if you are doing some kind of an ice build, again, whether it's something like this or maybe you're doing like an ice bow, frostbite, something or other, you know, I check your affixes. Both the enemies burn when they die, as well as enemies explode, and biters. All of those are going to break an enemy's frozen state. So just be mindful. Just be careful if you decide to do a little bit of a freezer burn. That is literally freezer burn, right? The enemies are getting frozen and they're burning. But yeah, see, and enemies are exploding here too. So I'm looking at that as well. So I feel like affix wise, we got a little work. We got a little bit of work to do here. But I think it'll all get sorted at some point here. And as far as taking cursed biomes, we're 2 for 2. We're 2 for 2 here. So obviously, prisoners' quarters can never be cursed. It's just, you know, imagine that. Can you imagine a cursed prisoners' quarters? That would be, man, that would be wild. That'd be absolutely wild. But Arboretum was cursed, and now what do you call it? Prison Depths is cursed. So I decided to take Damned Vigor with me. Love Damned Vigor. Most times, unless you're in a boss fight, definitely a better pull than disengagement. We're going to get one when we get hit if we're cursed, or if we just take a fatal hit. Come back to life for 2 seconds, kill an enemy, and your run continues. So that's quite good, and almost, I wouldn't say it's mandatory for cursed biomes, but having that extra cushion is super, super nice. It's super nice, right? So we got ourselves, we're in good shape. We're in good shape here, right? So again, aside from those affixes that I should probably roll off, I should roll those off. Again, seeing myself pause a couple times, that indicates to me that I'm at least aware of the fact that something ain't right. So aside from rolling those off and making sure I don't get hit by that curse's projectile, so I'll be able to get into that challenge rift, I think we're in good shape. I think we're in good shape here. So let's we'll let the run continue. We'll let it continue. You know, as stuff pops up, I'll reference back to it, and we can kind of revisit stuff, or I should say, just visit stuff as it happens. But I got so basically, you know, talking about other things instead of micromanaging and rambling about the build. Oh, that's great. We got ourselves extra health and an extra jump in midair, which is, both of those are going to be helpful in general, but also here in the challenge rift. So the last video I put out, my True Archer viewer build that Rocheap suggested, that was recorded the night before, oh no, big hit. The night before Saros came out. So that was, I called it All Saros Eve. I am recording this on Saturday, May 2nd, whatever it is. Saros has been out for 2 days. I've already put about 10 or 11 hours into it. That's basically all I did for most of my day on Thursday, and then last night I chunked a good 3 or 4 hours into it. So let's talk about Saros a little bit here. And by a little bit, it's probably going to be the rest of the video. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways, let's talk about it. So the TLDR, is it a great game? Yes. Do I recommend it? Yes. Is it as good or better than Returnal? The suspense. The suspense. Is Saros as good or better than Returnal? I can't answer that. They're two different games, but clearly there's a lot of similarities between the two. They're from the same studio. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that is similar, but there's also a lot of stuff that's different. And before I get into it real quick, most of you folks know I like to do my commentary in one long take, but I had to actually scrap some of the commentary here. The neighborhood I live in, it's a little bit more suburban, and there was a leaf blower. Someone was doing yard work outside as I was editing the audio for the video, just kind of like getting all the levels correct and all of that stuff. I could hear it. I could hear it through with the game audio on too. So I had to scrap that. So this is actually the second part of the commentary. I'm recording this a few days later, actually. So some things have changed. So during the first part of the commentary, just probably like 2 minutes ago, whatever it was, I had mentioned that I put about 10 or 11 hours into Saros. At this point, I recorded that on Saturday. It is now, what day is today? Wednesday? It's Wednesday, so it's been a few days. Since then, I have put in more. I've put in way more hours. I actually started a brand new save file, as I do, so that way I could kind of go back from the beginning, get some more story beats, and then take what I've learned and then apply that for a brand new save file. So at this point, I've probably put in maybe like 15 to 20 hours on this new save. So let's just say that I've played for maybe 30 hours, 25, 30 hours total. It's like a whole day. It's like a whole actual day. So I have a lot more experience than I did when I first started recording the video, which is actually really good. Which was really good because I feel like I am now in a position to better talk about the game than just being like, yeah, I've played for a little bit and here's some initial thoughts or whatever. So first off, what I will get out of the way is the game rules. Game fucking rules. It's awesome. So do I recommend it? Absolutely. There are some things that I did not love about it, but overall, I think it's absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I'm recording this on a Wednesday. I actually have a bunch of stuff to do over the next couple days, so I won't be able to play. I won't be able to play as much, but that's probably good. It's probably good, so I can let things breathe. I can let things breathe a little bit here, right? So basically, if we're gonna kind of get into just like the overall presentation. So the game, it's almost like how do I explain this? Okay, so some sequels that come out, right? Let's use Hades 2 as an example. Clearly, Hades 2, it's a sequel, so it builds upon the story of the first game. There's new characters, all this other stuff, but mechanically, they basically took everything from Hades and then doubled it, and then doubled it again. So there is just so much more, right? There's more, spells and upgrades. There's more ways to get, character, what do you call them? Like relationships. There's all, you can garden, you can plant seeds, and you can like harvest crops, which will allow you to cast more spells. It's like there's a lot. So in a similar way, Saros kind of takes things that were present in Returnal and it doubles it. It doubles it and then it doubles it, right? But since this isn't technically a sequel, there's a lot of stuff that is not connected, even though there is a lot of stuff that kind of is connected, right? So overall, game rules, absolutely worth playing. If you liked Returnal and you want to see, that game was already really difficult, right? If you want to see Returnal and then dial that up, like if Returnal was like already running at a 10, like crank that up to 20, like double it. It's absolutely wild. So let me get into a couple of the things that I did not love about Saros, right? So first off, in Returnal, you know, there was just one character. It was just Celine, voiced by Jane Perry, pardon the pun, she did an insane job. She was phenomenal because, you know, if there's only one person, am I going to get the legendary here? Boom, there we go. So we used our wish. We got the legendary Ice Crossbow. So this is the item that we're going to take until the end of the game. So I think I'm going to look at the affixes maybe after. I think it might be after we roll through the ossuary here. We'll take a look when we can. But that's it. So we're making our way. We're making our way to completing the build. So I'm going to switch out our cluster grenade. Might be actually before the end of the biome here. I think there's a skill shop or something. I can't remember. But we are going to switch it out from cluster to ice grenade. So that way everything on our main kit is going to do, I was going to say it's going to do ice. It's going to freeze enemies. So then there we go, right? So we're almost there. We're almost there. So Returnal, like I was saying, Returnal only had one person in it, right? It was Jane Perry. She's absolutely phenomenal in that game. And you need to be someone, it's like if you're going to do a game where there's only one person, the range that they need, the amount of depth that they need and understand from the character, like there's so many things like that. I think here's the ice grenade. I think it's gonna come up pretty soon. We're gonna pop it. There it is. So I'm gonna go back to that because I didn't want it to be mimicked. So just in case. So she had to be completely on point, and the entire game she's out of control. The voice acting, it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. The audio logs, the DLC, everything is perfect. In Saros, it's not just the I can't remember the voice actor's name. Main character in the game, his name is Arjun. So it's not just him. So all of the audio logs that I have found so far do not feature him. They feature other people describing what's going on in the story. The story is much more complex because it feels more like a sci-fi thing, kind of like, it reminds me a little bit of like a cross between the movie Event Horizon and then also the movie Sunshine. Both are really good sci-fi flicks. But the story is bigger, right? There's a lot more going on. And then there's also a hub. So this is like a post. Saros is definitely a post-Hades game where there's a hub. There's people there to talk to. So at times, it does feel like kind of like your I hate to say typical, but like sort of like your AAA, kind of like normal, quote unquote, like normal Sony AAA game. I was talking to a friend of mine about it a couple days ago, and I called it Horizon Forbidden Sarcosa. That's the name of the planet, because it feels similar to a game like that, where you'll finish a run, you'll go back to the hub, and then there'll be people there, and you talk to them. And the way that the camera is, the way that the dialogue goes, like it doesn't feel awesome at first, right? So when I first started playing, I was just like, oh man, I'm gonna have to smash through this dialogue or whatever it was. And that's also part of why I started a second save file, is because I did skip a lot of it because I just wanted to get to the gameplay. And then I'd start hearing the audio logs in the game, and I was like, well, I guess I need to actually talk. I guess I need to talk and listen to some of these people. I will say, without spoiling anything, you know, it does shift a little bit as the game goes on, so it's not as dialogue heavy. So I was happy with that. But initially, I was just like, oh man, these people are talking so much, and like it wasn't like the conversations were. It's not like they were unique, right? So sometimes, you know, you'll talk to a character somewhere or whatever it is, and they'll have like a certain animation, or you know, put the ice bow in the backpack. There we go. All five of our items are going to freeze now. That's actually really funny. So all of the conversations you have with these people in the hub, you're just like standing there, right? You can move the camera wherever you are standing when you start to talk to that person. We're going to put a shield in the backpack for Dilapack here. Wherever you're standing when you start talking to that person, that's where you get stuck until the conversation's over. So like I said, you can't smash through. Real quick, we're going to look at the Ice Crossbow legendary affixes, right? So the main shot enemies thaw more slowly, and then with the secondary shot there, nearby enemies freeze, and I got that plus 175% bonus to a frozen target that Noodle Boy mentioned. So we're good. We're good. So as far as affixes go, I don't think I'm going to re-roll that at all. I don't think I'm going to re-roll that one bit. And I will, obviously I'm going to get back to Saros, but let's talk about the run really quickly here. So I'm coming into Concierge here. Again, we got our build here. I got ice armor so I can tank a hit. Got obviously the Ice Crossbow. We got Ice Grenade for a little bit of extra freeze. And one of the things with bosses is that their crowd control, freeze, root, stun, whatever. Most bosses, as time goes on, they build up a resistance to that. So you could see right there, I just tried to free Concierge and it didn't happen, but then a couple seconds later it did. So his resistance, or the resistance he builds or whatever it is fairly low. It's fairly low. So you might have times where he's not frozen as long. You may have times where you try to freeze him and he's not. You're not able to do that. However, his resistance drops pretty quickly. So you could see there, I got plenty of freeze in there, got plenty of decent damage, right? It wasn't like I shredded through him with the tactics build or with, oh God, vampirism. We can't, no matter how good or bad that item is, we wouldn't be able to use it with this build. We got no melee, obviously. But Concierge is, what do you call it there? The resistance is pretty low. So we're able to, do some decent damage again, not shredding with the speed or the power of a tactics build. Survival builds in generally aren't super strong as far as, getting enemies, bosses especially, getting their health down pretty quickly. But we did a good job. And now I'm coming to Fractured Shrines again. We're coming to Shrines again. I feel like I've, in the past few videos maybe, or a handful of the most recent videos, I've been coming here. I came here because there were two cursed biomes, Sanctuary and Stilt Village were both cursed. I didn't want to deal with it. So I came here. Complete 180 from how I used to play. I used to not come here. I used to not come in here at all. I would talk so much shit about Shrines and then I wouldn't come here at all. I still don't love it, but I'm okay. I'm warming up to it. So these conversations with these people, again, you can just smash through them, but the camera angles, the way that they're put together, and like the way the NPCs move, it's so awkward. It's so weird. So instead of having like, again, scripted conversations where like this character is over here and this character's over there and the camera's in a specific position, it's like you start to talk to these people, the camera stays where it is, and then it's just awkward. It's like the NPCs kind of like shuffle their feet a little bit and start like looking around, but their eyes aren't making eye contact with either Arjun or anything else. So they're just kind of like, I don't know. It's really strange. In general, the other voice actors, so Jane Perry returns as, pardon the pun, she returns as a different character. She is not as strong in this game as Returnal. I feel like the direction that she got was to be a little bit more standard, a little bit more bland. So she's not as good. The voice coming back is familiar, which is nice. But her performance is not as strong as it was in Returnal. I don't know the other voice actors, but they do an okay job. It's all right, But I'm not impressed. So that was my initial reaction. Like I said, I bounced through that dialogue so quickly the first time I played it through. So didn't love that. The second thing, like my second criticism here, is that Returnal, and I respect it for this, there was not a lot of ways to get meta progression in that game. It was brutal, right? So the two main things that you could do, the first is you unlock stuff, right? So you could unlock new artifacts, you might unlock new abilities, right? So thinking of like getting the grappling hook, you need to get to biome, or excuse me, you need that to get to biome 3. So like you beat the second biome boss, you get the grapple hook, and then that kind of changes the gameplay from there on. And then the other thing is the weapon traits. There are locked, weapon modifiers that you need to use, and you kill. Oh man, if this was just regular build, I would have jumped on that knife dance so fast you wouldn't have even seen the description. You wouldn't have even seen the description. It would have popped in so quick. But with Returnal, you have these weapon traits, right? So you would use these weapons to unlock these modifiers. They change the way the guns work, or they change the stats, or whatever it might be. So when you start the game, you always start with the same pistol. You start at the same level of proficiency, which is kind of like, think of it like experience points or whatever it is. The more proficiency you have, the better, or I should say the higher quality of the guns, yada yada, all that stuff. So you would sort of like start off with a blank slate and then be like, okay, what am I going to find, right? What artifacts am I going to find? What weapons, what weapon traits or whatever. So the progression, there was no skill tree. There was no way, there was like no gold reserves, right? There was no equivalent to gold reserves or flasks. There's no equivalent to extra dashes like Hades or whatever it is, right? So you just start from scratch the whole time. And that was part of the challenge, right? Saros has a skill tree and it has difficulty modifiers. So I think, the first thing that I wasn't crazy about was the skill tree, and the only reason for it, like, it feels really good. Just like any roguelite, this is more of a roguelite than a roguelike, I guess you can say. Like any good roguelite, the more stuff you put your currencies into to unlock, the better it feels, right? Like, how good does it feel to go from not having any recycling here in Dead Cells to having recycling too? You get so much money. It's great. How good does it feel from having 1 potion to 4? Like, it feels fantastic. It feels really good. The skill tree in Saros is so granular that it's almost comedic, right? So it's to the point where, like, when you first start putting your currency into the different traits and nodes or whatever you want to call them, they're so minor it's like you don't even notice, right? So I'd say the best way to think about it, let's use, like I just mentioned, gold reserves. Let's use gold reserves as an example here. With Dead Cells, there's 5 levels, right? So I think it's 500 gold per level, right? So you're going from 500 to 1,000, 1,500, all the way up to 2,500. Imagine if gold reserves, instead of it costing however many cells per upgrade, right? 100, 200, whatever it is. Imagine if every upgrade for gold reserve cost 10 cells, and then every increment was like 5 gold, right? So you spend 10 cells and then it goes from 50 to 55. You spend 20 cells and it goes from 55 to 65, or maybe even smaller than that, right? So the gains are so small that it almost it feels comedic to me. And if anybody here will go back to the PS2 era, if anybody here has played Final Fantasy X, you may remember the sphere grid, which was something else that was so granular. Every character had like this, it was almost like a board, right? It kind of looked like a board thing where you would put in these spheres and like you'd get extra abilities, but it was like, whatever the stats were. It's like, magic defense up by 1. It was like attack power up by 1, right? So it was so small. So over the duration of the game, your characters will get very powerful, but in the moment, it doesn't feel like a lot. And that's similar to Saros. So I've gotten to the point where all of the skill tree is unlocked. It's completely visible to me. I definitely do not have everything filled out. There's still a lot. There's like 2 different types of meta currencies, and they both persist after death. It's not like you lose cells or anything. Like Dead Cells, you do lose some of your currency for upgrades if you die, but there's ways to minimize that. So it's like, I've seen the whole skill tree. I still have a lot to do. I still have a lot of both of those currencies to get. And, but even then, like, I'm not being facetious here. There might be something like 500 nodes, right? And a lot of them are similar, where it's like, oh, all of your stats get 1 level up. And there might be like 50 of those things on the board, right? And it's like, oh, healing is more effective. And there might be 30 of those, right? So it's not like all of these stats are unique. There are some unique ones. One of the things that's really cool is there are locks on it, so you basically can't just play over and over and over again and then max everything out. Each boss that you fight is a lock, and so basically if I were playing the game from scratch, right, I could unlock everything up until the node that's for the first boss. After that, I beat the first boss, I get that node for free, and it's usually like a pretty meaningful upgrade, and then it opens the next part of the tree. So I can then use my currency to fill out the nodes until I get to the lock that's for the second boss. So they made it was really smart to do it like that. But the skill tree is so granular. Like I said, it was funny. When I first looked at it, I knew there was a skill tree, and I was just like, what are we doing here, man? Like, what in the goodness of Atropos are we doing here? Like, my God, man. So all right, I'm actually looking for an ice shield here. That's the last piece of the build, was to get an ice shield with armadillo pack. We don't grab one here. And also, you know, not a lot's happening in the run. The build, spoiler, the actual build itself does not change. I may upgrade ice armor. Like I might replace ice armor. I might replace the ice grenade, but the kit doesn't change. So the 4 items you're looking at down there, it's the same the whole way through. So I will continue to call things out as they come up. But hopefully you're still able to enjoy the gameplay while I give my impromptu review of Saros here. So the skill trees, you know, like I said, it's funny. You know, I don't love it. However, you know, I've gotten to a point where it is noticeable. And again, this is after another, whatever it was, right? Another 15 hours in the game. You know, and the other thing that's actually really cool is that unlike Returnal, right? So there are 2 acts in Returnal. When you start the first act, you always start in the first biome, and you can skip ahead to the second or third biome. However, you need to find the room that has that extra exit. So think of it like, I don't know, you're in prisoner's quarters and you find the exit to the sewers. It's similar to that with Saros, and the same thing with the second act. You start in biome 4, and then you have to get to a certain point, and then you can get to biomes 5 and 6. With Saros, in the same terminal where you can upgrade your kit and, you know, do all that stuff with the skill tree that I was just talking about. In that same terminal, there are warp points where you can go to other biomes without needing to go through the first biome. I think that is phenomenal. I think it's fantastic. It can be a little challenging, right? Because you're missing out on the whole first. Like if you warp to biome 3, you're missing out on 2 whole biomes of proficiency for better weapons and health and this and that. But as your skill tree gets more filled out, that's less important because you are starting with more stats. So you can skip ahead and it's not as hard as it would be. So again, that's the equivalent of, like, I don't know, if you start prisoner's quarters and in the room with the recycled tubes, it's like, where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Ossuary? Do you want to go to Stilt Village, right? Do you want to go wherever? So that's actually really cool. So I do like that a lot. And I don't even remember where I was going with that. Talking about the skill tree, whatever. So anyways, yeah, so it's really granular, but you know, it like I said, I've played enough now where it actually does make a difference, but at first it's just like all these little baby things, except for big hit from the corpulent zombie is what those what those mummies are called. There is one very noticeable upgrade. It's basically like a death defiance or YOLO, right? So when you die, you're actually able to come back one. So that's very important, and it is very noticeable when it happens. But all the other stuff is, you know, mostly like little baby upgrades. So I heard there was a skill tree. I do wish there were less things. Oof, look at those iframes, huh? Jeez, what a terrible... That's like the second bad spike placement. We had the secret underneath those spikes in the Arboretum, and now we had that terrible spike placement here. That was awful. But yeah, so there is another one. So you basically unlock YOLO. That is very noticeable. The Death Defiance, whatever you want to call it. I already forget what it's called. Second Chance, I think it's called. Very noticeable. And then there are other nodes where you can, like, get more health back after a second chance and all of these things. So like that's actually pretty rocking. And the teleport thing is great. The other thing you can do, so similar, I know, like I said, we're living in a post-Hades world, right? There's pre-Hades and there's post-Hades. So there's just no denying how much impact that game has had on a lot of different genres, a lot of different, or I should say a lot of different games, different roguelites, etc. So, similar to the heat system in Hades, there is I think it's called like a Carcosan modifier or whatever it is, but basically in Hades with heat, you could change the difficulty level so that way enemies do more damage, you have less healing, and then that would give you different rewards. With this, you actually have two different things here. So you can bring that dial in either direction. So there are modifiers on both sides, and basically there's like this gauge. It almost looks like a fuel gauge. It starts in the middle, and then if you put too many positive benefits, right? So you can do like, enemies do less damage, or you do more damage, or whatever. That arrow or the pointer is going to go to the right, and if it gets to a certain point, it won't let you start a run because you have too many bonuses. What you need to do then is then find the negative modifiers, right? Where it might be like elite enemies are stronger, or you get more corruption, which is like a specific type of damage, and that brings it back down to towards the middle. So what you want to do is, if you do change the difficulty, you're going to want to do, what do you call it? You want to balance them out. That's part of the game. So I really, really, really like that. And I'm going to assume that other folks who did struggle with Returnal are also really, really going to like that. You take more of your power back in that aspect. So that's also fantastic. That's absolutely fantastic. As far as the gameplay goes, like I was saying, similar to Hades 2, it takes something, it multiplies it, and then it multiplies it again. Saros is, I don't even know how to describe it, because it plays similarly to Returnal. The Arjun feels exactly like Sleep. The dashes are the same. The movement speed feels the same. It's not, there's not a learning curve when it comes to that, but there's so much more stuff to do with abilities. The levels are, it reminds me of a cross between, like visually, the best way to describe it is it's like half Returnal and half Elden Ring. Instead of having all of these smaller rooms that are interconnected, most of the levels are large. They're outside. They are in these big areas, so that way it's not like you're just going, again, like Hades, chamber to chamber to chamber. The levels are giant. They're absolutely giant. So it feels, because it feels and is a bigger game when it comes to traversal and all of those things. It's so insane. So the bullet patterns are out of control. They're out of control, not necessarily in like a, hey, this is way more difficult way, but more like there are more inventive bullet patterns. There are more types of bullets. It's absolutely wild. And so I don't use HDR, so it would even be more noticeable if I did. Some of the lighting in this game is so strong that there were points where it was like almost too bright. So I was playing in a dark room, right? The only light I had was the glow from my television or whatever. The light was so bright, it felt like I had a light on in my room. So the joke I made with a friend, I was basically saying like I could have read a book by that. If that light was coming from my TV, I could have sat in my chair and read a book by it. That's how bright it was. So like the lighting effects, the patterns, it's out of control. The level design in level design is in like not necessarily the way the levels are shaped, but more like the actual, like the way the backgrounds look and the way that the tile sets are and like all of this stuff. Like it's the last time I was this impressed was when I played Elden Ring for the first time and I got to like, what's it called? Like Farum Azula with all it was just like stuff like that was, it's wild. So I felt that, but like more. It's wild. Absolutely wild. Having that sort of experience, it does make it feel clearly like a different game. So it's not just like, again, Hades 2, right? You're just going, for the most part, you're going from chamber to chamber to chamber, and then other levels are a little bit different, right? So like you have the morning fields that are a large open area. So imagine if every level had that idea of morning fields where you just start out and then there's this huge thing. You start out and then there is a huge area for you to explore. And then when you get through and you fight a boss, the next area for the most part is huge. Even the levels that do have those interconnected rooms, the rooms are giant. The rooms are giant, huge ceilings, like all of this stuff. It's wild. So that is a spectacle. The bosses. So the first time I saw, I think it's Nemesis, right? The first time I saw the third biome boss in Returnal, my mind was blown, right? It's this giant thing in the sky. You're on these platforms. All right, let's pause again. Let's pause again for the video. Coming into Timekeeper, right? So let's take a quick peek here. So similar to Concierge, she's going to have that resistance to freeze. It's also, it looks like it's really not that strong either. Like, look at this. So every time I've hit her with the Ice Crossbow, she is frozen for at least a second or two, right? It's been at least a second or two, right? Oh yeah, so she's also, wow, that was quite good and quite simple, I guess, right? So it's another flawless. So we're 2 for 2. We are 2 for 2. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I'm curious. I can't remember what legendary we get. We don't use it. Obviously, we don't use it. You know, the one thing that I've been on the hunt for is this ice shield. No luck. No luck with the ice shield yet, right? We'll see. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if I grab it or not. But we got another flawless there. So we're 2 for 2. That fight was actually pretty similar to Concierge, and it was actually faster. That was actually the time of fight was faster than the Concierge fight. So that's pretty sick. That's pretty sick. Good for us. What am I doing here? Am I just chilling? Are we just chilling for a little bit? Oh, there we go. Okay. So let's see what we got. Let's see what we got for a legendary phaser. No. Legendary phaser's fine. If you can get a melee weapon that has plus 80% to poison on it and plus whatever it is to root, 75 or whatever it is to root, that could be really tasty. That can be a tasty thing because the default legendary affix is it poisons the enemy or it does a toxic cloud, and then it also briefly roots the enemy. So if you're doing a baseball bat build with brutality instead of survival, you can take phaser, and that's actually going to help out. And you can also see here we're going to Shipwreck. We're going to take Shipwreck instead of the usual 5BC route. I know I hit Dracula up in my last video. I think I mentioned someone had posted asking, do you go anywhere else besides 5BC biome? And my answer to that is yes. So we're going Shipwreck, we're going Servants, and we're going to Queen. But as far as Saros goes, yeah. So like I was mentioning, the third biome boss in Returnal blew my mind. And with this, it's like, the first 3 bosses, I'm like, okay, these are really cool, right? The first boss reminds me of Hyperion a bit from Returnal, which is the Biome 4 boss. Like, there's like some stuff going on. But after that, like the 4th boss, it goes off the rails. It goes off the rails, and I'm watching this saying like, oh my God, like I have never fought a boss like this. And that continued throughout the entire game. The last boss that I fought was actually the least of a spectacle. It was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal of a boss. But it was like the least amount of spectacle than all of the other ones. Like bosses, whatever it was, 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever, I was like, each one was nuts. And I'm playing going, oh my God, like I can't believe that someone put this in a game. And then I would fight the next boss and I would be like, oh my God, I can't believe that this boss is more of a spectacle than the last boss. So like, I've been playing games for a long time, man. I've been playing games for a long time, and if at this point in my life I'm seeing something that I've never seen before and it is affecting me to the point where like I need to pause the game and just be like to like catch myself and center myself because it's not what I'm used to, like that's special. That's special. So overall, like I was mentioning, Saros is fantastic. Was it worth the wait? Yes, absolutely. I've been going in blind, so like excuse me, or I should say I've been going in without knowing anything outside of the first trailer or two. Was it worth not reading anything and not reading reviews? Yes. If you liked Returnal, will you like Saros? Yeah. Again, aside from maybe, like I was saying with the skill tree and with all the NPCs, that's a little bit different, so you might not love that. But on the other side of it too, yeah, so we're going to upgrade our ice armor here. There we go. And I'm going to fish for another ice grenade. I don't remember. We might not actually get it, but it doesn't matter. The only real difference might be an extra affix or two, and a little bit more damage reduction, like a couple %. So it's not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. If you do like that sort of AAA long conversation, whatever it is, you're going to eat that up. You're going to eat it right up. It's not going to be a problem for you. If you thought Returnal was too difficult and you bounced off of it because the systems were so obtuse and the progress wasn't noticeable enough, should you play Saros? Yes. If you like third-person action games, should you play Saros? Yes. So like I would recommend Saros over Returnal like 95% of the time, right? Returnal will always have a place in my heart. It's near and dear to me. That's the only game for the most part that I've actually covered outside of Dead Cells here, and I don't think that Saros is ever going to take that place. But I would recommend Saros over Returnal because it is more accessible. It is a little bit more, newer player friendly, and the story is less obtuse, right? So that's also another good point of entry for people. So I would recommend it to everyone. If you have even a passing interest in checking this out, if you had an interest in Returnal and was like, I don't know, it was okay, absolutely check it out. Absolutely check it out, right? So there's my Saros review, right? This is deceptive. This was a viewer, again, Dan Noodle Boy submitted a viewer build for an Ice Crossbow build with Frostbite, etc. And you got yourself a Saros review. So, was this deceptive? Maybe. Did I plan to do this? Not really. Not really, right? So there we go. So Saros, highly recommended. It absolutely rules. It's phenomenal. I'm very happy with it. And I'm also very happy, like I've gotten to the point where I've gotten, I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a break for a couple days so that way I can both have some more time to do stuff, but also have some time away from the game. So everything that I've gone through, like I pushed through a lot of the game over the past couple days, I'm going to allow that to sink in. Ooh, we got a challenge rift. What's up? I think there was a challenge rift in another biome that I opened and then I did not go in. That could be quite possible. That could be quite possible. So yeah, Saros rules, highly recommended. Check it out. If that passed, how long was I talking about that? What was that? 30 minutes? 25 minutes? Good grief. Good grief, man. All right, so I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop talking about Saros. I'm going to stop talking about other shit. We're going to get back. Let's get back to the run here. So, again, the build, I upgraded my ice armor, or I should say replaced it, but the build has not changed. The build hasn't changed at all. So we're still rolling with the same thing. We still get the same mutations, right? We got Frostbite for extra dot when an enemy is frozen or slowed. We still have Armadillo Pack, right? Still no Ice Shield, but we do have Punishment in there. We don't get an Ice Shield. I know I kind of like alluded to maybe we would, maybe we won't. We don't get an Ice Shield, but I think what I should have done is I should have re-rolled that Punishment to get the affix that it freezes nearby enemies with the parry. So even if it wasn't a real Ice Shield, we could get ourselves a bootleg Ice Shield, but I don't think that I did that. I don't think I did that there. And we, like I mentioned, obviously you've been watching this, so we went to Shipwreck. This is not my normal path. Similar to Shrines, you know, I've said some things about Shipwreck where I'm not crazy about it, etc., whatever. I feel like etc. has become another one of my crutches. Like, oh, that's super interesting. So I'm gonna try to keep an eye on that. So I have not historically loved Shipwreck, but I had fun with this when I came through here. It was just like a nice change of pace, right? So Queen in the CDLC, it's a chunker. There's a lot going on here, right? So Shipwreck may be I don't know. I haven't compared. You know, I'm quite the data. I'm like a Dead Cells data analyst. However, I have not compared the size of 5BC Bank to size of 5BC Shipwreck. Cool little trick. If you have any shield in your backpack with Armadillo Pack and you roll through that attack, it's gonna do that really bright thing. That's what Saros looks like. It looks some of the attacks look super bright like that. I don't know the actual, you know, tile size set, etc., whatever it is. Oh, I did it again. The tile size for Bank and Shipwreck on 5BC, I feel like the levels are comparable, as in, like, these are the biggest levels in the game. As far as a normal biome, Shipwreck is easily the biggest, again, especially on, like, 5BC. I think in lower BCs, it's not as big, but 5BC, it's absolutely giant. So you're getting yourself a lot of content as far as space goes with the DLC, and you're getting some really interesting weapons. Like, I feel like with every DLC, Evil Empire took like the baseline kind of stuff you'd expect and then made it even wilder, right? So by the time you get here, the weapons, there's not like a lot of, I don't even know if there's any normal weapons, right? Because you have the Queen's Rapier, which will you know, stun enemies briefly and have like that reality slice thing that happens. You will get the Bladed Tonfist, which is a movement-based brutality weapon. You're gonna get the Wrecking Ball that has so much tech to it. It's like one of those things that's what is it? Easy to use, hard to master, or whatever it is. So you're getting all this stuff, and then you get 2 boss fights, and you don't only get 2 boss fights. You know, like Dracula into Dracula 2, where there's just, you know, one phase and the second phase. You have an entire level before the boss fight. So I would qualify the Servants not just as a boss. It's basically like a mini biome, because you get to climb the whole what do you call it? You get to climb the whole lighthouse to get there. So it's it's a chunky DLC. So I would say pound for pound, even though I would prefer, you know, I've mentioned this before, both item wise and outfit wise and level and enemy, etc., like all of those all of those things, I prefer the DLCs in the order that they came out. Bad Seed's my favorite, you know, Fatal Fall's my second, this is my third, but this is still a great DLC, but it's almost like this is the one where like things really pop off, where, you know, the level of, again, exploration here in the Shipwreck is great if you're into it. The weapons have a higher skill ceiling. It's pretty wild. The other thing too is, you know, similar to the final levels in the other DLCs, you can only get to that particular DLC's boss from that. So from here, there's no alternate paths, right? So if you think of Distillery, you can go to Lighthouse or to Throne Room for Hand of the King. If you take High Peak Castle, you can go from, you know, either Dracula or Hand of the King there, but this, you only have a lighthouse exit, which is perfect timing because we are walking into the lighthouse here. And you know, like I was saying, every DLC has that. You know, Undying Shores is only Scarecrow, Morass of the Banished is only Mamatic, even though there are other ways to get there from other biomes. So we're doing a mutation refresh here. So I remember doing this here. So I take Kill Rhythm here to see what the difference is. So these shots are popping off pretty quick, right? I think what is it? What are we looking at? Like a 44%, 44% bounce of faster speed or whatever it is. And now I take Kill Rhythm off. So there's a noticeable difference here, but as I'm thinking, I'm like, is it enough for me to not take other mutations? And I decide not to here, right? Oh, I did see the freeze on punishment. So there we go. So we did we did have a shield that freezes in the backpack. So check. Viewer build done. Check. Big check, right? There we go. I decided not to take Kill Rhythm because it didn't make as big of a difference as I would have wanted here. You know, I would have preferred to take Disengage, which I did. I'm going to keep Frostbite for some extra DOT, and then we're going to hit the Lighthouse here. So again, we got the same build that we've had for basically, you know, since the Ossuary. That's when I chose to get the Ice Crossbow. You know, if I did not see one there, of course, I would have kept Wish on, since the request was for a legendary Ice Crossbow. So I would have kept it until we found one. But since I found one, I decided to just grab it. And we also had that really good shot pull from the Arboretum where we had an Ice Crossbow almost since the beginning of the run. So the beauty, oh man, I was going to say the beauty of normal run viewer builds, but also the beauty of Servants not having a damage cap like that. Or I should say the damage cap is so high or low, whatever the right word is. The damage cap is so low that you can just like rock. You can rock. Other bosses do not have, you won't have the ability for the most part to get those giant hits in one single hit because of other bosses' damage cap, but there is no damage cap here. So we're doing some really good, we're doing some good business here. We're doing some good business here. So what I'm doing here, so depending on, and we don't get a flawless, of course, you know, I think we're 2 for 4. I don't think I get a flawless on the queen either. But we don't get a flawless here, and part of it is because instead of trying to just get up the lighthouse as soon as I can, what I want to do here is I want to take these servants out so that way the climb is going to be a little bit easier. So once you knock the servants down, each one to like half health on the climb or 2/3 health or whatever it is, they peace out and they don't follow you. The first 2 parts of the climb are not too bad. I feel like they're all challenging if you are trying to get a flawless, you are trying to get that flawless outfit. And there's also, there's no legendary after here. So once you get the outfit, there's really no reason for you to flawless this again. So don't put yourself through it, right? So what I'm trying to do here is, again, I'm taking a couple hits. I have plenty of HP from all of the health scrolls I've gotten in my build here. I did not need to take disengagement. I got like 20,000 HP. That's out of control. But I want to get those servants out of the way because this part of the climb is the hardest. Cleo is relentless. Look at how quickly she is teleporting in. As soon as she gets close to me or close to you or whatever, she's going to start swinging, right? So like it's tense. And if you have all 3 servants during the climb, like it can get out of control pretty quickly. You can get nuts pretty quickly here. But we made it through. Again, you know, taking out each servant on the way up. If you're trying to get the flawless, I would say just try to book it. Try to book it so you don't take extra damage. But if you're just trying to have like a more successful climb, if you can, take them out, right? And speaking of taking them out, we got Calliope done. She is out of here, so we are 1 done. You know, the good thing about this fight here is even though there are 3 servants, only 2 of them can be on the screen at a time. And as you'll see here, there's often a lot of times where there's just 1. Euterpe, she is around a lot. There are arrows flying all over the place. We're looking across the screen here. We're looking, speaking across the screen, Cleo's just ice skating her way over, right? You're going to have arrows coming down from the top. You're going to have arrows coming diagonally from the side. So there's a lot going on with her. But you can only have 2 on the screen at once here, which is very beneficial. So even though I took a lot of hits, Cleo hits hard. I took a big hit from her. Like I said, a little bit reckless going up the climb, even though I got that 15% food before we went in the room. And I'm still at, what am I at? 70% health after just taking a bunch of hits. Yeah, I'm at 78% health. That's a lot. That's a lot here. And we got good scrolls. We got 33 damage scrolls. We have, what is that looking at? 5 and 4. We get 9 additional health scrolls between tactics and brutality. So we're in fantastic shape. We are in fantastic shape here. So again, I didn't need disengage, but I took it anyways just in case. And now we're coming into the queen fight. So this is the last boss of the run. Again, you know, not taking 5BC, not taking spoiler content. So I guess that actually makes things more accessible for folks too, if you are not at that point and you do want to see some good stuff. And speaking of, we can see here the queen's resistance to freeze. So I think when she does her, like you can see here, yeah, she's not getting frozen at all. I don't know if that's because of the phase she's in or if her crowd control has been, if she has gotten to the point where, her resistance to freeze is getting better. Maybe not. I don't know. I can't tell. Looks like she's consistently getting frozen here. So maybe not. But either way, this fight is more complicated than Concierge or Timekeeper, but it's also very similar, right? We have one single boss on a horizontal plane here, taking with Hand of the King, might be similar. I feel like his resistance to freeze builds up pretty quickly. But this fight is going well, and we got our last reality slice here. If you can't find a little pocket, you can dodge at the right time to get through it. And we're just going to have a couple more hits on the queen here, and then she is toast. And then she's toast. So I think what I would like to do is wrap things up. We're running out of time anyways here, right? We got like another 30 seconds. So there it is. There's the build and there's the run. Thanks again to Dan Noodleboy for the suggestion. This was a lot of fun. Again, the build didn't really change, which gave me the opportunity to give a impromptu and unexpected review for Saros. So we're going to finish with the same footage we always do, except now it's in context, right? So as always, thanks for watching and good luck out there.